start with Genesis chapter 3. There's a couple of verses I want to cover before I get into the teaching. It says in chapter 3, verse 14, "And the Lord said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done thus, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. And upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life." Here, and then he says in verse 15, "And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, but thou shalt bruise his heel." And going on Genesis chapter 6, seeing that now, and this is what I finally understood what the seed of Satan was in Genesis chapter 6. He said he would crush him. Is that Satan has literally tried to create his own offspring, create his own mankind. And he's doing it today. In Genesis chapter 6, it says in verse 1, "And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose." Now, some people say that the sons of God here are really the sons of Cain, and Cain's sons were forbidden to marry Seth's daughters in the Bible. And, they call this the Canaanite theory. But scripturally, there's zero reference anywhere. It says that God forbid the sons of Cain to marry the daughters of Seth, meaning Seth was the third boy of Adam and Eve. But we have the word sons of God, which is in Hebrew, son is Elben, and God is Elohim, sons of God. In the book of Job, let's go ahead and go there. In chapter 1, here again, we have the evidence where the sons of God are, or who they are. There was a day when the sons of God, which are Ben Elohims, came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. Here we go, the sons of God. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 1. Job chapter 2, verse 1. "And again there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord." So here, Ben Elohim, which means sons of God, which is literally angels, present themselves before the Lord. Now, getting into some of the stuff like last week, we talked a little bit on marine spirits, which I'm going to just mention a little bit here, and then I'm going to get into the incubus, succubus. Okay, marine spirits are causing trouble in our marriages. Marine spirits are the primary cause for 60% of marriages failing in America and Europe continents. Let us look at some spiritual husbands and wife problems. Marine spirits have other names: Aquarius spirits, mermaid spirits, water demons, husband and wife spirits. Now, what caught my attention in this last little section here was, Craig might not remember, but Arthur does remember, The Age of Aquarius, the song. It came out in the early 70s.
I remember.
Oh, you heard that? Okay. Now, door openers to marine spirits are okay. Door openers of marine spirits are sexual sins outside of marriage, pornography, cyber sex, phone sex, masturbation, sexual rape, molestation, etc. Rituals in the water, sacrifices, wrong dedications by someone or behalf of someone else, homosexual or lesbian persons, insects and beastology, through initiation and blind initiations. Now, these spirits, these are the ways we open these doors to these spirits. Now, getting into it a little bit deeper, we have astrosex. Now, we shared a lot about this because we both studied a lot on it. Many women suffer from astrosex regularly. Astrosex is the ability to project one spirit into the victim's body and has intercourse with them. This practice is very common among Satanists. They leave their physical bodies in a dormant state and project their spirits into the body of whoever they want to have sex with. The person ends up dealing with marine spirits known as wife and spirit husbands, incubus, succubus. So, we see here that even the demonic kingdom, people, unwilling subjects, can become possessed by these kind of spirits. But this is an article I came across, and I'd like to talk a little bit about this. It comes from Royal Grease Ministry. That's a hard name to pronounce. And it's about a singer. Her name is Keisha. She's a rock star of today, young singer. She was in an interview, and they asked her about it. It says, in a recent interview with singer Keisha, she reported that she has had sexual encounters with a ghost. The singer new song, Supernatural, talks about her experience with this demon spirit, or ghost as she calls it. In her interview, Keisha says, it's about experience with the supernatural, but in a sexy way. Well, I don't know his name. He was a ghost. I was just like, I had a couple experience with the supernatural. I'm very open to it. And I'm going to go a little bit further in this, but the question, something to think about, is that she wrote a song called Supernatural, singing about having sex with demon spirits. Now, I'm sure that the 60-year-old crowd is not listening to this woman. But judging from her age, she looks like she's in her 20s. What if the teenage and 20-year-olds are listening to her? The message she's giving is a spiritual message about having sexual intercourse with demons. And people are going to, accept it, acknowledge it, and they're going to do it. Now, getting further into the article, this is what surprised me. Okay, we read Genesis chapter 6, verse 1 and 2. And it says here how giants were born. The Bible tells us that from the union of the sons of God, the Ben Elohims, fallen angels, and the woman of the earth, they produced children. These children became the heroes of famous warriors of ancient times, of what we know as giants. In the same manner that man was created in the image of God, Satan too wanted man created in his image as well, fallen angels, having sexual intercourse with women, and would be his way to bring forth seeds that were evil and full of wickedness. Remember, we read about these, the prophecy of in Genesis chapter 3. The offspring of these creations were giants that brought forth fear and intimidation to all who saw them. All right. The offspring, today, the offspring is called Cambion. It's Cambion. Is most often depicted as the offspring of the incubus and the human woman. At birth, the infant has no pulse and no breath. This continues until the child is about 7 years old, where it becomes increasingly difficult to differentiate one from a human. A being is usually devilishly cunning and angelic beautiful, able to persuade even the most strong-hearted individual to do his or her bidding. And the article continues on, because of this inability to create a natural life, the method of the creation of a being is necessarily protected. A succubus will have sex with a human male and so acquire a sample of his sperm. This she will then pass on to an incubus. The incubus will, in his turn, transfer the sperm to a human female and thus impregnate her. It's still happening today. I mean, in Genesis chapter 6, and even after Genesis chapter 6, even going all the way up to the book of Deuteronomy, the wars of the kings, that we see the giants still existed on the earth from sexual intercourse with human women. Here again, we're seeing the same thing taking place. We just have a different way of going about it. And by doing that, I'm thinking today, maybe you guys might be thinking of this, whoever's listening. Many of these women that are getting so involved in sex relationships, and we'll get into this a little later about the sexual thoughts when you're sleeping, that they're actually transferring and making it possible for children to be born in this world that are not of God, not children of the natural way, but of demonic spirits. Now,
hey Joe, there's a ministry that I'm familiar with, and they've had a couple cases where the woman has been raped by a fallen angel, and there was a pregnancy, and as they did, and it grows like real fast, like crazy fast. The lump in the stomach, and that whenever they do deliverance, it goes away, I guess.
Yeah, and there's some cases, I'm sure it might be happening here, but it's mostly in Africa, where a woman got pregnant, but they'd be pregnant for a couple of years, and there's no fetus, but they have every symptom of a pregnancy, but it's never happened. When deliverance takes place, the stomach goes down too. And then there's cases where a demon spirit will invade a womb and kill the spirit of a fetus, and then he becomes that spirit of the fetus. And this is happening all over the world. And it's been going on. Okay, I want to go on a little bit further with this, and then we can sit back and talk about it if you want. There's 16 indications of a spirit relationship, or what brings it about. Some of these areas of sexual sin that would be an open door for the spirit of incubus succubus to enter would be the following. Before I go into this, now I know I opened myself up to this, the things in my past. Okay, so they are fornication, adultery, homosexuality, incest, masturbation, fantasy, spirit spouses, prostitution, rape, perversion, pornography. In fact, pornography is probably the biggest door opener we have in the country right now. I listened to an interview the other day with a woman that's really bringing to the forefront of child pornography right in our face on television and on the internet. She said that young boys that get, hooked up into this, it's usually through pornography. And pornography takes them down. Then they get into heavy masturbation. When that happens, then they don't even have a desire for a woman. In fact, I know one young man, as we got to talking one day, yeah, he was going to be fornicating, and he couldn't even get an erection around a woman, but he was a heavy masturbator. And I informed him he had a spirit spouse.
Let me ask you a question, Joe.
Go ahead.
Can you help somebody like that?
I believe they can be helped. It's a lot of work. Sometimes in deliverances, there's certain areas of deliverance we really have to work at it.
Mm-hmm.
Sexual perversions is some of the hardest things you get through. That and mental illness is another really difficult area to work through too. But going on, there's a few more points in here. Orgies, occult practices, witchcraft, seeking supernatural or spirit realm experiences, which brings on the spirit spouses. There's articles I've read that literally talks about women who are in the occult that literally levitate off of beds, having sex with spirit spouses at these covenant meetings. All right, there's another area I want to go into. It's called spiritual marriages. I think we just covered this, didn't we? Yeah, it was marine spirits. Yeah, we did. Okay. Now, this is an area that it's 15 points of a spirit spouse in your life. And it gives the destruction of what the spirit spouse does to the relationships or what it does to you. The first point is scratch marks. And how many people I've talked to talk about them or someone they knew getting scratches, which never happened. They don't even know how they got scratched. Craig, I think I remember you talking about that one time, didn't you?
Yeah. I've been scratched. Of course, I had a succubus as well, but yeah, it used to scratch me. Scratch upside down crosses. I actually have scars from it. They're pretty nasty devils.
Wow.
And then, yeah. Spirit husbands and wives can be inflicting injuries on the body of their victim while sleeping. So when you notice that whenever you wake up from sleep in the morning, there are lots of scratch marks on your back, tummy, arms, or other parts of your body. You may be under the attack of a spirit husband. I know this article doesn't cover this part of it, but I know I'm gonna add even bruises to it. A person waking up with bruises.
Yeah, Joe. The incubus, it'll like on the thighs and stuff like that, and that's pretty common with the incubus. Bruises. Yeah. That's because
the person that was being violated was resisting. Okay. Hatred towards your spouse. When you suddenly develop hatred towards your spouse without a cause to the point of nursing murderous thoughts towards him or her, such hatred will make you hate his or her touching you, also hate having sexual intercourse with your spouse. It may be a sign that you are under the influence of a spirit spouse. So it's saying here that, when your mate, with either your husband or your wife, which it should be, comes near you, you push him away, or you have a hatred or a bitterness or a contention towards that person. Yeah, it's probably an indication of a spirit spouse. Okay, this is an interesting one. Hatred towards the opposite sex. Another sign of being under the attack of a spirit husband or wife is that when you have an inversion towards the opposite sex, not that you have been molested at any stage of your life by people of the opposite sex, and yet you don't want to have anything to do with them. This is not normal. The opposite spouse may be at work here. All right. So, again, this is very common in prostitution. Not prostitution, I mean in lesbianism and homosexuality. The only time that a lesbian and a homosexual will agree together is when they're going up against something that interferes with their lifestyle. Excuse me. Okay. Constant destruction of things. Spirit husband and wife can be so jealous of the physical spouse, thereby causing damage on the things like car, generators, phones, or other gadgets owned by the earthly spouse. This is so mysterious that if those things are sold or given out to someone else, it will function well. Many times it is the fellow who married a spouse with a spirit husband. Wife is the one that bears the burden more. So now we're looking at, let's say that if a man and woman are married and the woman has a spirit husband, he's highly jealous and he's going to cause damage of property. He's so jealous. And here again, it does happen. Spiritual masturbation. This is point number 5. When you dream of constant sexual intercourse while sleeping, it's a major sign that you are under the attack of a spirit spouse. If you usually have sex in the dream, you need to seek for spiritual help through deliverance. I think since we have nothing but men here today on our call, I think we can all three, contest that we've had those things happen to us. Arthur? Arthur had things like that happen to you while you're sleeping? Craig, same thing?
Yeah, I have, Joe. Arthur was muted. He might not have heard you.
Oh, that's okay.
No, I'm outside the truck. That's why I'm muted out.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to continue on.
I'm going to put you on mute, Arthur. If you need to talk, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay. Point number 6 is experiencing loss of items. Another common sign of a life under spirit husband or wife is when you keep on experiencing loss of money and valuable items. Even if you are the only one living in a house and you discover that you can't find your money where you keep it and your belongings are getting missing, you need serious prayer to be free. Okay. Constant, and this is really interesting, constant miscarriages, barrenness, the wickedness in the heart of the spirit husband who doesn't want his wife to have earthly children can make him suck the pregnancy wherever the wife is pregnant. Whenever the wife is pregnant, I'm sorry. Cases like this are beyond medical attention, and if not arrested early enough, it may lead to barrenness. So here that if the woman is married to an earthly man, she gets pregnant, the spirit husband can take the life of that baby and cause a miscarriage. In fact, I've met people that women have had several miscarriages. And then he finally had a child, but it was through prayer that happened. Sudden death of a spouse. The hostility and jealousy lifestyle of a spirit spouse can make him kill the earthly spouse. Some people have been having this issue that whosoever married them will die suddenly, without prior sickness or health issues, without knowing that it could be a spirit spouse at work. Gospel of Luke chapter 10 verse 10 says that the devil comes, the adversary comes to kill, steal, and destroy. All this is lining up to what we're reading here. But the fullness of life which Christ gives us, which is eternal life. All right, number 9, failed business financial problems. You notice your business keeps failing and you keep reporting losses in all your business's attempts, even when you are obeying all business principles, yet you can't explain how the whole investment crumbles. Some can be so worse that even if they join a thriving business, the business, it will nosedive at their inclusion. This is a punishment from a spirit spouse meted out to you by marrying his spouse. Breastfeeding in the dreams. This is point number 10. If you have been dreaming that you are nursing a baby in the dream, it may be a sign that you are already married in the spirit world. The spirit hazard may prevent you from having earthly children or killed your earthly children. Number 9, serial broken relationships. Broken relationships should not be a regular occurrence in life. Once you notice that people you love keep walking out of your life without any quarrel or misunderstanding, then there is more to it than ordinary. The spirit spouse may be responsible for chasing potential suitors from you. Number 12, going for shopping with an opposite sex in the dream. If you dream you keep seeing yourself going for shopping with an opposite sex, it may be a pointer to you having a spirit spouse. Yeah. Turn the page. Any comments?
Also, Joe, whenever you dream of like a wedding or you're vacationing or you're with another person or children or having children, those are all pretty good signs that there's a spirit spouse in there. And
yeah, you're right. I mean, anything that connects to a family.
Yeah, traveling. Yeah, eating dinners, banquets. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's go on. Number 13, seeing yourself pregnant in the dream. And this kind of got to me because it said here, if you constantly see yourself in the dream with pregnancy, this may be that you are about to give birth to a spiritual baby, especially if you are yet to have a child in real life or you are not even married. So, yeah, I mean, your spirit's already married to that spirit. That means it has a relationship to its world. Getting married in the dream. This is something you just mentioned, Craig.
Hey, Joe.
What?
Joe,
yeah.
in that second heaven, there's a whole other realm up there, brother. You know, I deal with a lot of people from Africa, and you know, they go. There's like a whole other existence. These spirit spouses, whenever these wives or husbands give birth, whenever the wife gives birth to a child in that spirit realm, I mean, they have a family up there and stuff, man. It's I know.
Yeah.
I know it sounds pretty crazy, but you know, I've heard plenty of testimony from some pretty high-ranking Nigerian witches and so on, high priest. Yeah, they and that's whenever I come up against a spirit spouse or an incubus, succubus, that's what, you know, like you said there at the beginning, you divorce it. But something else I do in that I abort the children in that second heaven. You know, and,
oh, that's something I never thought about doing. I just usually try to get the first of 3, but yeah, that's a good point, Craig. Okay, yeah. Getting married in a dream. One sign that is common to people under the attack of spirit spouses is to have a dream regularly that they are getting wedded. Most time, dreams like this prevent many singles of marriageable age from being married physically, which means there's a lot of people out in the world who've never married. It's very possible they have a spirit spouse. Late marriage. If you notice that you are non-challenged about wedding or marriage, even all your friends are getting married, you are not a part of the, excuse me, I have a hard time with some words, perturbed. You don't just have the urge to quit singlehood. You may be under the yoke of a spirit spouse. This spirit will keep all potential spouses from you until you experience a late marriage or no marriage at all. Pretty powerful stuff. And getting back to something you said, Craig, not just the spirit realm having weddings and marriage and families, they also, it's like a whole different world like we have here. They have manufacturing, they have technology and science in that spirit realm.
Yeah.
And they work hard.
Yeah, they're up there riding in cars, riding horses.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these people down here, Joe, they're able to go up there for, their soul or their spirit will leave their body, and a demonic one will come down here and take its place. And, they're up there for a couple of weeks,
And that's correct. And they're up there working in manufacturing, make devices and science to promote down here that we do accept eventually, which, takes our life away or takes our love of Christ away. It just simply lowers us to a lower standard of life. So that's pretty much covering the incubus, succubus realm of marriage. And the thing is that they are taking the sperm from a male and sharing it with a incubus, which is a male, and then he shares it with a female. They're creating offspring. Now, they're pretty good about this. They want to make sure that you're having a relationship with someone, so you just can't get pregnant being a virgin. Of course, I think they'd like to try to do that to copycat, our Father in heaven. And this is pretty much their realm. But it even goes back to the water spirits. It's amazing that they see things like the homosexual movement, how tightly knit they are to the sexual spirit realm. And I never really associated it that way. But reading some of these articles and researching a little bit, I'm amazed to see how much of the spirit realm, the incubus, succubus world is with the homosexual movement. And this is why we are under such heavy attacks as Christians or believers in Christ Jesus of these things taking place. Now, is there any questions or comments? Craig, Arthur, you got any questions or comments?
I don't, Joe.
Okay. Pretty much covered. I know it's going to be kind of a short lesson today. I pretty much covered what we can cover here. Arthur, you got a minute? I think he's probably getting out of range of the phone. All right. I don't have any much more to cover on this except for the fact that, I never realized how much I opened myself up to a spirit spouse. And